Welcome back to the Student Hub Live STEM Showcase. In this section, we talk about computing and communications. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about Pythons, Turtles and Raspberry Pis, which you can see on our table here. And I'm joined by Paul Puick, who is going to be telling us all about programming and Python language, which is an important part of TM112, Introduction to Computing and IT 2.
Yes, that's right. So in TM112, Introduction to Computing and IT 2, one of the things we want to help the students work with is the Python programming language. That's actually the first text-based programming language they encounter in their computing and IT degree studies. But it's actually sort of framed within a broader context of problem solving. And within that context, we look at various rules of thumb, so heuristics, to solve a range of problems. And one of those is to take a problem and really decompose it or take it apart into simpler, easier to solve problems and to go from there. And we've got a number of examples throughout the module of that.
Excellent. Now, you've devised a very interesting problem.
Yes, so what we're going to have a look at later is the Turtle Challenge. So this is actually what we do at the very beginning of TM112, where we use a visual feedback to actually help the student to understand what the computer program is actually doing. So you will see something directly happening on the screen when you give the computer a particular command. So that could be something like forward or left or right, but yeah, we'll see a bit more of that in a minute.
Excellent. Now, at home, you'll be able to see on our interactive votings tools a couple of different options. Which way should the turtle go? And you'll have options for forward, left or right. And you can also write your answers in the chat to that. So hopefully we'll try and get the turtle to go in the direction we want it to as well. And we have Kit on the hot desk as well. Kit, hello, how's everyone at home?
Hi, yeah, they're having a good time. We've got lots of queries about STEM BSc, which we're chatting about. But I think they're looking forward to the Turtle Challenge.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent. So, shall we start doing the Turtle Challenge, or shall we start talking about why Python programming is an important thing to look at?
We can say a little bit more maybe about Python first, because the Turtles Challenge is a sort of very simple instance, which really I hope is for some people might be the first experience of seeing or interacting with real programming language. But so Python itself is important because it's not just the reason we use it in TM112 is because it was developed for non-programmers. So scientists who use it, say a biologist who wants to analyze a DNA sequence, or maybe a linguist who wants to collect lots of text and analyze that, but also in the sort of commercial world. So companies like YouTube, Instagram, so social media, it's actually Python running underneath of that.
So it's one of the most widely used programming languages now, isn't it?
That's right, yes, yeah.
And why is it important then that non-programmers are able to pick up a language and use it? Things like Instagram, Facebook that rely very heavily on quick changes, on being very agile and adaptive in a very evolving world. Why is it important that they can access a language more easily?
So because, when you are as a non-programmer, say from a particular discipline, a particular STEM discipline, you have a particular problem to solve. Nowadays, that often involves a huge data set and you want to work with that. And you're really interested in solving that problem. You're not necessarily interested in learning the programming language. So the programming language is really a means to get to the end. And so the faster the programming language can allow you to do that, the better, basically.
So is it about honing down the steps then in terms of the programming to make things more simple and less complex and therefore more robust?
It's partly about that. I think what's sort of special about Python, or what distinguishes it from other languages, is, but that's certainly my experience when I first started learning about it about 10 years ago, where I tried some other languages as well for a particular problem. Took me several days to get my head around those languages, and it didn't really work. In that case, it was analyzing a huge amount of text, basically, a set of dialogues, and I wanted to find out where the turns are, how long the turns are, and do some analysis on that. Python, I then came across Python, and literally within a day I had actually solved the problem I wanted to solve. And it had more the feeling of telling the computer almost in English what I wanted it to do. So some of the things which I hadn't really sort of looked up yet in say the manual for the program, I just tried tell the computer, that particular command, and it just did what I expected it to do. Whereas with other languages, often there is a lot of overhead in terms of the brackets, the spacing, the special keywords, the whole sort of infrastructure which you really need to get around first, which is interesting for programmers and computer scientists, but for somebody who just wants to solve a problem, it's not really what it's about.
So what do you learn about then in TM112? Because obviously you're teaching Python and you're teaching it, well, you've mentioned that it's one of a set of languages, and so
Yes.
obviously it's not the only one because others are useful at some point. And you've mentioned why this is more useful for non-programmers to be able to do things quickly and easily. How do you sort of teach it then within that context?
So we build up to a number of projects which with the idea that these projects use real-world data. So the two examples of that. So the first one, so there's the Office for National Statistics that makes lots of data that it collects throughout the UK available on its site. So one of the set of statistics is on health and well-being, particularly on people's happiness in different regions of the UK.
Yeah.
And so we get our students to do some analysis of that, then also actually look at some other, connect it with another data set to see, is it really true, or is there a correlation between how long you live and how happy people are in a particular region, for instance.
So students are using this found data to really develop a program to look at relationships between things.
Yeah, so they are on the one hand they are learning the problem-solving skills and a little bit of the Python. On the other hand, they're also learning a little bit about statistical concepts like correlation versus causation, for instance. So things which are not necessarily related to the programming language itself, but which you can then, where you can use the concrete example as a nice vehicle to introduce those concepts as well.
Now, you mentioned that things like Instagram, Facebook, Google are using Python language. Why is it important in a race to sort of get better things going on, better functionalities, etc.? Why is that important, and what have been some of those sort of key battles, and who's won?
So there is a really nice story there, because as you may know, so YouTube was acquired a while ago by Google. So it's a Google company now. But before that, there was actually also something called Google Video, which was in a few blocks down the road where YouTube was located as well. Google Video had about 100, over 100 people employed to build their video application. YouTube was a fairly small outfit with about 20 people. They were racing against each other because at that time, so the sort of streaming of video was still very, very early on in the process. So all these new features sort of came, so one of them would introduce a feature maybe to like a video or to share it. The other one would then very quickly want to do the same thing and introduce that as well. Now, Google Video was using a more low-level language, C++, with this huge number of developers. And typically, if the other side introduced a feature, it would take them a month or a couple of weeks to have that feature ready as well. And actually YouTube managed to do the same thing in about a week or even under a week.
Wow.
With the difference really being that they were using this higher level scripting language, in particular in this case that was Python basically. And so they won in the end the race, because in the end, so what we've got now, some of you might be watching this on YouTube right now actually.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's do the turtle challenge.
Right.
This is it, and everyone at home needs to get ready now. And Kit, we're going to ask for you and the viewers at home which way you think the turtle should be going. So I hope you're paying attention.
Absolutely.
Tell us how it works, Paul.
Yeah, so we've got the turtle here and we've got a box here, and the idea is to get the turtle literally precisely into the box. There is what in programming terms is called a shell here. So over here we can type in commands which will then be followed by the turtle.
And just to clarify, we're the turtle on the screen, not the turtle on the table. Turtle on the table's going nowhere, it's a toy.
It's this one. I hope not.
Busy eating biscuits.
So we've got only 3 commands at the moment, so we can choose from. So there's forward, right and left. So forward and then a number in bracket. That means how many steps it goes forward. Part of the challenge is to figure out what that precisely means. So we're not telling you how far it will go with just one step. And then we've also got right and left. And the number there is actually degrees. So if you go right 360 degrees, that means you're turning fully around. 180 would mean that you face the opposite direction. And you can do that left and right. Left and right is from the point of view, the turtle's point of view. So you have to think from the turtle's point of view.
Be in the turtle's shoes.
Yeah. And so the challenge now is to, what we hope to do is to do this in as few commands as possible.
Great. Okay, everyone's voting. So let's see
Right.
where we think the turtle should go. Okay, forwards is in the lead with 50%. So we're going to go forwards. Kit, how many steps forwards do you think we should put the turtle?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because I think what we need to do is establish how big a step is, which of course we don't know at the moment. That's our
Very
X
good
factor.
point.
So
Not one I considered in the run through. I just went in with a number.
So this is me rather than the chat talking, but I would suggest taking one and watching very carefully so you evaluate what one step means, and then you can use that information to make better decisions for your future steps.
One is an interesting choice, I would say. I mean, it might help to look at the examples as well. So one is a fairly small number, I would say. But,
Okay, yeah.
Just to give you a
Yeah,
little
okay.
clue.
Well,
Higher, Kit.
are we saying higher than one then? Okay, well, yeah, okay, so maybe 10 then, something like that.
Yes.
Okay, let's try 10.
Yeah, the chat says 10 as well. So.
Okay, great.
So we've done 10.
So we've done 10. Let's clear that widget down and you can vote again to let us know which way you think the turtle should go to get into the box.
Okay.
So that's one step we've done so far.
That's one particular step,
yeah.
yeah. And so again, if you were doing that individually or with a number of people, you would probably want to think also, not just about figuring out how much a step is, but also how am I going to take this problem apart? So how do I get to the box? You could go straight and then up, or maybe you first want to do something else with the turtle before you move.
Well, let's see what everyone thinks at home. Which way should the turtle go? 55% say forwards. Okay, Kit, what number?
Suggestions from the chat are forward. Okay, there's a range of options here between 90 and 120.
Kit, you're in charge.
Well, yeah, okay. Let's split that and go for let's go for 110, which is roughly.
Interesting strategies. I'm enjoying actually listening to how this is being solved.
Okay.
Forward 110, great. Okay, so that's 2 steps we've done so far. Which way do you think the turtle should go now? Clear the widgets. I'm assuming you have to spell forward correctly, otherwise it doesn't work.
That's right. So we could say forwards, for instance. Let's say we just, so we don't change anything, we say forwards. And
Oh,
as you
yeah,
see,
not happy.
it says something like name error, name forwards is not defined.
We haven't
so
broken it now, have we?
We haven't. We should. No, I hope not.
Yeah, that could end the
That
show
could end
quite
it, yes,
abruptly.
yeah.
Right, okay. The
that's
widget
a-
says
that-
go left. Kit, how many left should we go?
Yeah, I think I'm having a look at the suggestions. I think we'll probably go left. Yeah, left 45 seems to
45.
be consensus.
Ooh,
Perfect.
Oh, that's
pretty
looking good.
Three
Good work,
steps.
chaps. Nice one.
Okay, excellent. Now let's clear that widget down and see again where everyone thinks the turtle should go.
And so we're doing very well. We've only done 3 steps so far, not counting my test step of forwards.
Unsurprisingly, it is forwards, which I don't think anyone would no one's going to say any other way because it's getting lined up. Right, Kit, let's get an idea of how far forwards.
Okay, so based on the last movement, which was, we've added up to 120. The suggestions I'm getting here are between. Okay, so we're at 300, 320, 400. I think it's going to be towards the lower end. I'm looking at that. I think it's the lower end. So I would say 300 actually. Oh, in a soup, but I don't.
No, we're
think
not
that's
putting a turtle in a soup,
that's
Dab,
not
and
a
that's
valid-
very
no.
cruel.
Okay,
Nor are
shall
we using a catapult, by the way, just
we
for the
go?
record.
Is that in the box? What does in the box mean?
No, we've been quite. So we ran this at the Student Association conference as well, and we were very strict about people having to put it exactly in the box. At this point, there
Much
is
like the passport office with the signature.
at this point there is an interesting choice here because there are now two ways forward. So how do we get that?
hurdle there.
How do we get that turtle back? So maybe one clue, which given other people as well,
Don't help
is
them too much.
Yeah.
Their problem.
so
Go on then, what's the clue?
with just one command, we should be able to get it backwards.
Okay.
So we don't need to turn.
But there's no backwards because there's only
no-
forwards, right or left. Thus presents the challenge. Why is there no backwards?
Because to some extent you can use numbers to go backwards. So if you give forward the right number, it's
Okay, well,
interpret this as.
I think we've got some suggestions. I know there's some computing programming students here. So, Kit, what does everyone say?
Yeah, we've got a suggestion here of -30.
All right.
Move forward -30, which I like the sound of that.
Oh, well done,
yes.
bravo.
Very good.
Excellent. Now, right, brilliant. Well, everyone's won that. That's great.
Yeah.
And what is interesting then about this, Paul?
So in terms of how we use this in TM112, it's really, so you wouldn't just be solving this on the fly. The idea would really be to start with a problem and think about these bigger steps. So maybe if we and in this case, I think we've kind of done that because we've decomposed it into two sub-problems first. First is, well, figure actually out what a step exactly is. And then the second is, okay, get the turtle in the box by first turning it in the right direction and then going forward. That's a very simple example, but you can imagine if you have to draw a complicated, say, mathematical figure or geometrical figure on the screen, or maybe you have some data and you want to draw a graph for that, you would have to use similar strategies to achieve the same thing, basically.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, that was incredibly interesting and very wonderful watching the problem solving going on. And again, that's one of the interesting things with computing and communications. So, Paul, thank you very much. Well, stay with us because we're going to take a look at the Labcast rehearsal with Eleni, and John Roswell and Kate Bradshaw are preparing for tonight's session. So we're going to go live over to the Labcast rehearsal and see what's going on there.
Hello Karen, yes, I'm live and I'm behind the scenes at one of our Raspberry Pi Labcasts. I'm joined by Kate and John and they're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here. But first, do you want to introduce what you both do?
Hi, I'm John Roswell. I'm going to be running this particular Labcast today. It's for TM129, which is an introductory computing and IT module, and we're looking at little Raspberry Pi computers.
Hi, I'm Kate Bradshaw. I'm the sort of producer, director sort of person who runs a whole programme of Labcasts in STEM.
Great, guys. So we've got a whole bunch of exciting looking kit here. John, do you want to go into a little bit about what's going to be going on this evening at the Labcast?
Okay, well, I'm going to be demonstrating some of these little Raspberry Pi computers. These are very small little things, cheap as well, 10 or 11 pounds for a gadget like that. But that can be used as a full computer, desktop computer, so you can connect it up to a monitor, use it with a keyboard and mouse and do word processing or any web browsing, any of the sort of major computing tasks that you do, including programming. But also these things are quite nice because they can be connected up to little bits of hardware. So I've got some hardware devices over there as well. One of them's just got some blinking lights on it just to show that there's something happening. The one sitting next to it has got some environmental sensors attached to it. So the challenge is how we can connect these together and get information backwards and forwards. And I'm using my laptop, which has got Linux on there as a way of doing that. And they're all connected through Wi-Fi, through just a standard domestic router that's sitting over there. So challenge for today is how to get all that set up and demonstrated to students in a short period. It's a sort of practical activity that you can easily imagine doing at home. So this is not really in a lab in any formal sense. It's kitchen table sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you said, picking it up for £10 for the computer kit, and everyone's got their router, so everyone could get involved by themselves at home. But the people tuning in tonight, they'll be able to interact with the experiment whilst you're running it.
They'll be able to interact in various ways, using the widgets and so on, and tell me what I'm doing wrong, probably, when I get the commands wrong, get myself in a muddle. So yes, there will be some interaction, letting students help decide, and it will reinforce some of the concepts we do in the course.
Sure, yeah, so what this is not a compulsory element per se, but what are the real benefits for the students who are tuning in for this tonight?
For this one, they get to see some things that they might not normally experience, so they might not see this sort of equipment themselves unless they think to go out and buy them themselves. It is using bits of hardware that we won't do in the normal teaching of the module, so it's just a step outside of what's covered in the module. Some of the previous Labcasts that we do in the course as a whole include a robotics one, and we have a big humanoid robot that we can show. That's the sort of thing that you're not going to do on a kitchen table at home, but it's nice to be able to see it.
Oh, fantastic. So these link to the different modules that the students will be taking throughout their course.
That's right. So in this one module, there are 3 different topics. So we're on the last bit at the moment, which is Linux. Previously, we did networking, and we did some live networking as well. And the one before that was robotics. And as I say, we used our big humanoid robot there.
Brilliant. And Kate, you have a broad view of all the different Labcasts that go on here at the Open University. Can you say a little bit more about the different types of things that the different Labcasts offer?
Well, first say that it's only in STEM at the moment, but there's the range, everything from broadcasting from a field behind one of the buildings on campus. That's an environmental science course where students have to learn how to do field science, how to choose parameters, choose equipment to collect the data, and how to ask a scientific question, set up a hypothesis, and pursue the scientific sort of argument. And the 3 academics who do it have great fun doing that. And we just hope we have nice weather whilst we're doing them. So that's kind of one extreme in a way. One of the most obvious uses of Labcasts is obviously bench chemistry sorts of experiments, and we do some of those as well for level 2 and level 3. In fact, the level 2 one comes direct from an actual residential school that we run here. And we get some ex-students in to run that for us, and they do an experiment live. That runs for 3 hours, that one.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's the latest experiment. But then we have some which are, so for the physical sciences, we have some experiments too. Obviously not wet chemistry, they're sort of lasers and things like that. But there's more emphasis on how to work through the maths and the equations and things like that. So it's using a whiteboard, for instance. And there's a real benefit to students actually seeing an expert work through the problem mathematically. So that sort of thing too.
Sure, so it helps give them confidence maybe to go on and do their own stuff in the future, really.
Exactly. And because it's, they're interactive events, there's a dialogue there. Students can talk to each other, which they certainly do, and they can ask questions of the presenters, and we generally have somebody who's monitoring the chat too.
Super. And can people catch up with these if they miss them?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We always record them, so they're always there on the Open STEM Lab afterwards. Yep.
Fantastic, super. Thank you both. It's really fascinating, and I hope it all goes well tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Eleni, and thank you very much, John and Kate. Good luck tonight. I'm sure that'll be absolutely amazing, and I know that students really enjoy that. Wasn't sort of the Raspberry Pi I was expecting, but nonetheless, very, very interesting. So, Paul, what's next for you? We've been hearing a lot of students today who've been doing a T112 in addition to other things. What's next for you in terms of your academic aspirations?
Well, in terms of aspirations, at the moment I'm actually working on a batch course myself. So this is a course on digital thinking tools.
Okay.
So this is a course which is free via the Open Learn site. It's hopefully going to go live later this year, beginning of next year. And it has various, so it has a bit of Python in it as well, actually, because you can use the Python, so the shell which we showed earlier on where we were driving the turtle. You can also use that as a calculator to solve sort of small problems. We also look at things like how can you, given that you have a text with a bit of argumentation in it, how can you analyze that? Use again digital tools to make that visually sort of explicit, and use that in writing a bit of, say, a reasoned conclusion for, say, TMA or an essay or something like that.
Excellent. And we've got some resources on the Student Hub Live website that Paul has given us. So there's the Open Learn Python Simple Coding. There's also the T112 module description and the Zen of Python. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, so this is so the person who designed Python, I think it's now about 30 years ago. At some point, a colleague of him asked him to write down in a few sort of pithy statements what the philosophy behind Python is, and so this is that set of statements. So there are about 10 of them, which sort of capture what Python is about, and it's definitely recommend having a look at that.
Excellent. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being on today. And if you've enjoyed that, Paul made a video with us at a recent Student Hub Live event about Level 1. So you might want to check that out on the Student Hub Live YouTube channel. But before we end this session, I'd like to take a quick trip to the hot desk. Kit, how are things?
Yeah, great. The turtle exercise is incredibly popular. I had a student mention that it reminded them of the jumping frogs and toads from Java modules that they've been dealing with before. So that was a nice callback there. Very, very happy with the result as well with the 5 moves. Discovering that we're second out of 20 examples where Paul's on that. So people in the chat feeling rightly very proud of themselves. And just some other feedback here. It's been a great event. More like this needed, please. Someone else earlier was mentioning how much they've enjoyed doing their MSc in computing with us and how they recommend it to anyone. So yeah, really positive stuff in the chat. It's been lovely.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Kit. Lucia, welcome back to the studio. It's been quite a day. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I've signed up for an engineering module next, so I'm going to be doing that, and I've learnt so many new things today. It has been a really, really fabulous showcase, and the students and audience at home have been sharing so many wonderful tips and ideas, and it's just been so positive.
It's been fantastic, lots of participation, really interesting and fun stuff. This last session, obviously I'm a computer scientist, so we'll have to allow this last session. You know, it's a classic, you know, the turtle is just, you know, brings back memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How many steps did you do it in then?
I would have probably done in 5, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would have turned the turtle and then go straight. So the turning would have been easier. I think the difficult bit is to work out how far the turtle actually moves. So 10 was obviously a very small amount. So then they have to figure out how far to go. But I did participate online, so I couldn't stop myself. So I had to do it. I went on the chat. Yeah.
Good. Now, you began the day and we were talking about some of the new curriculum, and we've heard colleagues talk about various new programmes, qualifications, modules, etc. They're all on the horizon. It's a really exciting time for the faculty at the moment.
Absolutely. It is for STEM. It is in the wider context of the UK. There's so much demand for STEM skills, so much shortage. I mean, if you think about, you know, about 89% of the industry who employs STEM people are struggling to find the right people. So there's never been such a great time to join STEM. And with all the opportunities that we provide our students, there's a choice for everybody. And even if you just want to do part of STEM, you can still integrate with other discipline, which is fantastic. So you have this interdisciplinarity that you can explore.
Yes, I mean, one of the key things we've been talking about today is everyone's been coming on saying, well, this is from our school, but actually we link so much into other things. So let's take a quick recap of some of the things that we've learned about today. We heard from the School of Physical Sciences and we looked at their various telescopes, and we had some demonstrations here from Andrew Norton and Meredith Morell, which was really exciting, and they were explaining how we've got these telescopes and we can actually allow students to be able to go in and operate those, and what a fantastic experience that is.
It's amazing. Telescope the other side of the ocean.
Yeah.
And we can still operate it from home. It's pretty impressive.
And a lot of students were very interested in the planetary sciences, and we were talking a lot about informal learning and some of the MOOCs available from the Open University, which are incredibly popular.
Incredibly popular, yes. And also, you know, for people who are want to take a proper degree, then, you know, they can continue to study at master's level, where we have a space science and technology masters as well. So, you know, there are opportunities there beyond the informal learning.
Absolutely. And we had a science lab tour, so we had a little look at some of the cold atoms labs and saw some of the exciting things going on there. Then we looked at some of the field trip highlights from EE's Environment, Earth and Ecosystem Science, and we looked at the tweeting tree and treewatch.net and talked about the importance of citizen science and how people could actually be able to get data and collect data themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the internet, you know, the possibility are, you know, infinite if you want, and it's great to see, you know, the general public participating and being really enthusiastic about doing science, and And so that's a fantastic example of how you can combine technology and people to solve really interesting problems.
Yeah, and Phil was telling us about one of the field trips he's doing as well on the weekend, and that sounds really, really exciting. So we were encouraging students, in particular when they've got a level 2 or 3 module that is perhaps very specific to what they want to do, to register now so that they can ensure a place on that module.
Absolutely, yes. Registration are open. It's time to put your name down.
Yes. Then we had the incredibly inspiring engineering and innovation session, and we looked at women in engineering, and we also saw the results of some amazing work that students have done for design poster competition, which is on at the Open University, so everyone is welcome to come and see that this week.
I must say, on design, we've just refreshed that particular curriculum, so our design qualification now offer many more choices starting from October. So please, have a look what you can do now with design.
And then Chris Heath came and talked to us about some of the work he's doing in one of our Meet Our Researchers session. We were looking at touchscreen computing changing mental health and how attention could be measured. That was really, really exciting. And then we took a look at some of the open STEM labs, and Nick Braithwaite came and showed us some of the ways that students can operate various things that are happening either here or even slides looking at various objects.
Absolutely, very important practical skills. You can still do virtually, but still they're practical skills. They're very important for whoever is engaged in applied science.
Yeah, and he brought all his awards as well, and he told us about
Amazing.
the work he's been doing with government, in terms of promoting the way that the Open University are teaching students and
Absolutely.
how valued that is.
It is extremely valuable, and it's a very rich resource, which is for our students and beyond. So we should make most of it.
Then we looked at student support, and we took a quick trip up to Manchester to see what was happening in the office up there. And we also talked about the importance of careers advice and the way that the Open University offers a very holistic package to students throughout their studies.
Absolutely. I mean, we cater for everybody at any point in their career, whether they have a study break, they want to get back into employment, whether they're professional, they want to get up the ladder. Anybody, can find something really valuable for their future.
Then we had a maths and statistics session. So we were looking at chaos theory and the 4-colour theorem, which was really, really interesting, and the whole way that maths and stats are using modelling to predict the future.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so important these days where, data are everywhere and people really use artificial intelligence and statistical modeling to try to predict in economics, in sciences, everywhere really. So fundamental skills, I think, in the near future, more and more people will have to acquire the skills to be able to make good decisions.
But they weren't interested in the weather, that lot. That's probably for another school who pays more attention to things that aren't quite so predictable, as I think they called it.
Okay.
Then we looked at life health and chemical sciences. We had a chromatography demonstration. And we also looked at an amazing augmented reality app and the way that we're teaching students to look at the heart.
Absolutely. That was incredible, wasn't it? My son studied medicine, so it's the sort of technology that really, really do the preclinical training for health practitioners. Is an amazing
and in addition
resource.
to being able to use telescopes and use some of those apps, etc., it really did demonstrate how distance education was so superior in that sort of sense of really enhancing the use of technology to be able to teach students in a way that just isn't possible without that technology.
Absolutely. I mean, technology is quite fundamental now, even in traditional university, but so much more for the Open University. So we can give this facility to all our students.
And our non-students through some of the informal learning.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then we talked about waste management.
Yeah.
Tony Gladding and Carl came on and talked about the various research that they're doing, and we discussed composting and what we could all do as citizens to do our bit for the environment. We then met some students and talked about support for students and the various ways that students can engage in societies, and also how important the student voice is.
Yes, absolutely. And we listen to our students. We want to hear more from our students. In fact, we're trying to introduce technology that allows students to participate more in our curriculum and shape our curriculum. So, it'd be good to have all that participation. It's extremely valuable to us.
It is. And then we had from Computing and Communications, where we had our Python Turtle Challenge and our Raspberry Pi demonstration in a full grounding of tonight's Labcast. So that was very, very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, I'm a computer scientist by training, so that's just my home.
So if I ask you what your favourite bit was, are you going to be biased or not?
It's difficult. Too many good things, actually. I guess the things that always impresses me is the more practical aspects of what we offer, and the digital facilities, how we use technology, the innovation, and really the enthusiasm of the people that are involved in this sort of teaching. For us as researchers, academic, but for our students, it's just the passion. I think was very clear throughout the day.
Absolutely. I mean, I know about the awards, I know about the labs, but when you meet people and you see the enthusiasm for the subject, and the genuine way that they're so concerned about how they teach.
Yes, it's a true passion at UU. It's fundamental to what we do. Everybody gets involved with teaching pretty much, and we are very proud of it, I think.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. And I tell you what, everyone at home has been absolutely fantastic as well, haven't they, Kit?
They absolutely have, yeah. Lots of celebrations here of the Turtle Challenge. The having finished second out of 20 is definitely the big news, I'm afraid. Getting it done in 5. Comments include the hair never stood a chance. Lots of pride for Team Home there, which I'm really happy with. Yeah, good stuff.
Excellent. Well, Kit and so many of your other colleagues who have been on our hot desk today, thank you so much. And thank you everyone at home for sharing links, sharing your ideas, inspiration and talking together. I'm so glad that you've had a good day. If you would like to tell us about your experience, please drop us an email, studenthub@open.ac.uk, or there's a feedback form on the Student Hub Live website if you'd like to tell us about your experience. Whilst this session has ended today, or is ending, there are many more opportunities to connect with Student Hub Live events. We've got a writing retreat over the summer. We'll be looking at report writing, which I know will be of particular interest to many STEM students. And also next week, we're looking at writing for visual purposes. So those of you who are interested in design might like to join us. There are workshops in Adobe Connect. So please do come along. Everyone is welcome. You can just log in and find out more about those from the Student Hub Live website. Don't forget, though, that the Facebook page from the faculty is a great source of inspiration and a really, really good way of keeping in touch. So like the Open University STEM page, and also the Twitter account is @OU_STEM. So I hope that you can use those ways to connect over the summer as you start preparing for your modules in September. We'll be doing more Student Hub Live sessions in preparation for that particular module start. So please do check out the website, studenthub.live.open.ac.uk, where you can find out more about what we've got planned for you then. But from everybody who's been involved in this event, from all of the guests, from everybody at home, everyone on the hot desk, and most importantly our production crew, etc., who've made this day possible, thank you so much for coming along. That's all from us today. We will see you at another event very soon.